We'll have to wait and see who comes out on top, but if we get another 3-map series, as we already had for both of our initial series to start today, getting right into the bans here, wasting no time as we head into Bank for our first map, which is going to show up here as the pick from Navi. First ban getting out of the way, though, is going to knock out Hibana. We've seen that become quite a mainstay in terms of the hard breach operator ban here when it comes to these types of maps. No surprise the follow-up either, as Thatcher is immediately going to come after that.
Yeah, Hibana, the Hatch Queen, we usually see her around this space just because she's so very important to the overall play. Thatcher also going to be removed. We all know that reason. But besides that, Mira will be the next operator banned out. So everything as straightforward as you can possibly get for your bank bans, which is actually kind of interesting because Navi's been banning some very interesting things recently. We've been seeing some Flores bans. We've been seeing a lot of different stuff. So expected something a little bit different here, but we're still going to be sticking with the same old same. Thatcher banned. You want to get Kaid off the board to make sure those hatches don't get locked up. Pretty straightforward here.
Obviously, we still have the capability for Maverick to work yourself around that, but most people don't want to take the chance and the annoyance of just dealing with the Kaid in a couple other circumstances as well, so time to knock him out and get rid of him as we head into the first round of this series. Keep in mind, folks, best of 3s, not best of 1s here anymore for the group stage. You need to play out at least 2 maps to be the victor and gain some points for yourselves here. So we're already starting out at Tellers for the first site here, as it'll be Navi on defense, and we'll be bringing an A-string operator lineup. Oryx specifically will be the standout there, as they'll be trying to use that hatch work to move him around the map and possibly add some additional pressure on the roam game. But actually, it's going to 6-picked away back over to a Valkyrie, as that managed to sneak through the ban phase here as well, so she will be in play for this map.
Now, if you guys remember, Bank did end up coming in place of Consulate, no longer having Consulate in the map pool, a map that we had for a very, very long time as well. But Bank, with a free fresh look to it refurbished, especially inside of the lobby space, makes it a little bit easier to play overall for the defense, but still have a lot of risk running outside in kind of that open space. But either way, Navi actually going to be abusing the map early here. This is the big thing about Bank. Every single one of these sites works, so you don't need to play things traditionally with like starting off at the basement or immediately going upstairs. They're not going to do any of that, so they're going to go right to Tellers and Archives.
We did see recently at the NA qualifiers a lot of teams kind of avoiding the Tellers area, but once again, I think as we get back to the true Tier 1 echelon, we're going to see a lot of teams start to incorporate that back in, so no surprise here to see Navi going directly towards that, and no surprise to see them immediately deploying towards this extended game upstairs as well. This is the time waster right here, and they're really going to create a box for themselves with those castle barricades, blocking off all access points towards meeting room there, in addition to reinforcing some of the walls leading over into square. They are going to leave a bit of it open, though, as you can see. It'll create a little bit of a kill box for them to be able to use from the inside of that rotation they made for themselves inside of meeting.
Yeah, this top space going to be immensely important to the overall game plan of Navi. Have to hold on to this and try and prevent Oxygen from abusing a lot of this verticality, and that's the game plan for right now. Have some extra information to work alongside that. You can see the amount of bulletproof cameras coming out in tandem with Blur's black eye cams from Valkyrie as well. So much info on this top floor for Oxygen to worry about. We'll have to see how they try and dice this up.
Already see Doki trying to look for that initial pick as he pretty much realizes there's going to be immediate pressure working itself up on Repel. You kind of have to use it here to fish out some of that extended pressure. And we're going to see Kino putting some heat on these guys as well, both against Doki as well as the other player holding down the hallway leading towards Stock here. Doki put under that pressure, but not backing up just as of yet here. In fact, he's been able to return some nice damage on Akino as he's been dropped to nearly 50% of his HP.
Great choice in weaponry here from Doki, abusing that rifle. Only got to tag some people up, and you can get exactly that done like he does on Kino. Already half of his HP, and now has to play pretty safe when it comes to a lot of the game plan going forward. Obviously, they do still have Yaga, who could possibly use some of his hard breaching abilities to be able to get them into sight, but it's a long road ahead of them. You can see Blur already going for something out here as well. Tags one on top of Square, but it's actually going to be laxing to go down to Doki.
Link going down. That's the Finka being removed as well, since Adrenal Surge is not going to be available for Oxygen to use when they get closer. Kino quickly exchanges that back out, though, with the elimination of Doki, and we go right back down to do a 4v4 after that initial kill is claimed by the defense.
Looks like Navi wants to try and vacate the premises as well. Good idea. They've already got a big pick onto Lax, so might as well get back to site and see if they can possibly play this out in a different fashion. Blur still has a Nitro Cell in his pocket as well, so we could see the nuclear option come in later on to possibly get a pick on Oxygen, trying to work those vertical angles. Also, just look at this base floor right now. Navi is spread so far around this entire space. It's going to be very difficult for Oxygen once they try and work around this area.
Huge time-wasting composition coming out here, and you can see They still have some intel gathering utility upstairs as well that Blur's going to try to use. Nitro is lined up, but I think Fox moved away from it. Oh, and indeed just barely dodges that Nitro cell before it implodes a couple feet away from him. So count his lucky stars for now as he keeps himself alive. But like we were talking about before, there is a lot to work through here for Oxygen and not a lot of time to accomplish it. You can see they're starting to maintain some position now down on the first floor vertical, most notably getting the square access. For a second ago, secretly, Vertical is able to take out saves with that. Secretly, elsewhere on the map, though, does trade out against Yogg, so we stay even at 3 players apiece here as we head into the final 30 seconds of the round. And Kano close to another duel here, looking like against Nath, but not going to be able to confirm it. No, it's Blur instead sitting on the other side, but Nath probably close by here as the nades roll in. Does he realize inside of the elevator? Not initially, and Nath just barely going to sneak that kill up against Kano. Secretly catches Vert as well back over towards Square, and that leaves just Fox hopping down from up on top to try to clutch this out, but there's no time left, and he's barely got any HP left either, so this one is going to go, despite that very nice kill, to Na'Vi.
Fantastic comms there from Na'Vi, the adjustment to play that mid-floor instead and make sure they try and abuse the angles that they've established, especially over inside of the kitchen area. That was really the last nail in the coffin for Oxygen when it came down to things. The case going down inside a square, you can't, obviously see Vertical double back and try and get the case because of that kitchen player. A lot of risk being run by Oxygen inside of that situation, so just doesn't really work out for them. I like the effort trying to get into sight, but they just did not do enough on that mid-floor.
So this is the problem now for Oxygen. They need to come in here with a strong strategy to push out a bank win, but the problem is there's not a whole lot of tape for this team on bank. Only 2 plays in recent memory we have for them on this map was back at the Sweden Major, which obviously we don't want to count those results too heavily. As the analysis was talking about, that wasn't a very competitive tournament for Oxygen at the end of the day, so I don't want to count those in, but they were both losses. So once again, considering the fact that we haven't seen them bring it out at any point, I don't believe during the NAL either, lends credence to this being a bit of a risky map for them to be able to go into instead of potentially banning it out. So far, Na'Vi holds the keys to the kingdom, but we'll see if they'll be able to carry forward with that as they head back down to the first floor now for the staff area hold on round 2.
On a huge round for Vertical selection of Operator here as well. He had the IQ initially inside of the last round, but he 6-picked over to the Twitch. We saw him get that nice kill inside of Archives, but now the IQ is going to get a lot of traction inside of this one, not only up against the Pulse, but also against the Valkyrie cameras of Nath as well. So a lot of things for him to get done here. Expect him to try and stay alive and try and get rid of quite a bit of this utility. As for Na'Vi overall, though, they're going to stick to the mid-floor game plan, and they're actually going to shift it over to open area, which is a pretty unique site when it comes to bank. We always talk about it quite a bit when we get here, simply because you can rotate out of the site as well as drop into the site all at the same time. So a lot of interesting ways we could see Na'Vi try and play the map around those, big things going on for them. But either way, Oxygen now out and onto the field here. Not too much of a big change up inside of what their overall game plan is.
Doki once again going to be lining himself up to try and be the first pick, or perhaps the first death if things don't go his way. But so far that's worked out quite well, and not this time as Vertical immediately catches him as he tries to hop out the window there towards the connector upstairs.
Well, you got to try and get away with something cheeky, especially when you're up against Oxygen and people like Vert and Laxing. Laxing as well, if you saw recently, the 9th best LAN player of all time in Rainbow Six Siege. That is not something to turn your nose up to. That is extremely impressive, especially partnered with what Vertical is bringing to the table, especially inside of the last stage, the 2nd most effective player in NA overall. And Laxing, as we speak the man's name, he will get yet another kill for the OXG squad.
Good nade connection here too. Sneaks a bit of damage off on the Blur as he was none the wiser to that one, immediately imploding as soon as it got itself towards the castle barricade to open that out. So not even the intended target there, but a nice bullet or 2 worth of damage being snuck out. And it seems that Oxygen read into the more forward, aggressive opening that Na'Vi wanted to go for on round 1 and are now punishing it so heavily here in the second one. Kino gets the 3rd kill in a row for Oxygen, as Na'Vi have just been reduced to their site players at this point. Only Saves and Blur are left alive.
Can at least get some information out of Blur, but how far does that lead them? Saves, he's going to have a big round here. The impact will at least prevent the wall for now. Yaga still has one more, but Saves has the answer to that as well. Plenty of time for Oxygen to drone out the side and try and get a read on what Na'Vi really wants to do in this moment. Blur trying to move forward, but nothing really to be done. Oxygen really focused on this kitchen wall as of now. They just want to make sure that they measure twice and cut once.
They'll be working their way in now, as you said before, trying to make sure that hard breach goes off without a hitch this time. They don't necessarily have the greatest capability to work their way around this, but now they're going to go directly to put pressure in against Saves, and it works out beautifully. Vertical uses the sound mask to get himself in while barely being noticed, and Blur is now left alone. Good down on the Kino and a finish off on the Nitro as well, but a very quick exchange from Laxing to give OXG an incredibly dominant round 2 for themselves as we even this up at 1-1.
Yeah, there really wasn't anything there for Na'Vi to do past the opening moments. Once they lose those 2 bodies and Oxygen have control of practically the whole whole map minus the site, you're really not going to get too far with that one, especially when you have Laxing bearing down on you with 100 bullets. So pretty difficult there for Na'Vi, but that's going to be a tie right now, and we'll just see if Oxygen can possibly put some more rounds together on this offensive side. Na'Vi with a very aggressive front here, trying to get into the face of OXG, but they're prepared.
Yep, absolutely the case. An incredibly quick adjustment from Oxygen to get their feet on the ground there after they get tripped up a bit in the first round. And now we have to wait and see, because to be fair, Na'Vi once again going for both of those first floor sites. Well, we see at least open area played quite commonly. This is the big one coming up here in the base where the defense usually ends up edging out the win for themselves. The basement hold will be coming in for Na'Vi, and this is where they can shift away from that more aggressive strategy if they should so choose and rely more on the architecture of the site to do a lot of the work for them here.
Yeah, quite a bit of a preventable utility coming in as well. We'll have saved on the smoke and nitro cells for quite a few others coming in here to try and prevent Oxygen from getting a plant down. Vertical going to stick to the IQ as well. Not only getting kills with that, but more than likely utility coming in quite handy when he's searching around for those cameras and everything else that's trying to read out Oxygen's positioning. Moments away here from round 3, folks, as Na'Vi still breaking things up on this mid floor. Looks like they want to make some rotations and allow possibly someone like Blur to try and move around this archive space and make things difficult for Oxygen overall.
Overall, shouldn't be too difficult of a task, because once again we see this quite often on these types of holds here. So for Na'Vi, and specifically for Doki, he's going to be up to bat first once again here as he tries to find any type of opening picks or opening fights against the opening advance that we're going to get from OXG as they start to put themselves in position to move in here on Repel. Once again, that's mainly going to be to put the pressure onto Doki inside of these opening seconds, but he's well aware of that, so backed away into a more passive position. You'll notice he doesn't really have much in the way of utility support here, so should he notice more than one player pushing him, he is immediately going to dodge out, and right on cue, actually, that's going to happen as he backs down from the second to the first floor, seeing that indeed it's going to be a push not only from the Repel, but square side also.
Good info early on here from Oxygen, so clear out the top floor. Obviously, they'll lose a drone to one of those Mozzie pests, but that's going to be about it. As for the rest of Na'Vi, they've already shifted downstairs, and as you said earlier, they're just going to try and play around the architecture of the site instead. Lean on this utility and try and prevent this plant from going down. Some picks early on, though, would definitely bode well for them, and it's to be expected, especially around this blue space with that M590 in the hands of Secretly.
Still 2 minutes remaining here. It's going to be a very quiet round for both these teams so far. Oxygen want to end up stepping into the Hornet's nest accidentally, so spending a lot of this extra time they're going to have for themselves droning things out, and thankfully for them, because Na'Vi has given up all points of access except for the basement, they're going to have full freedom to do that and as well open up all these rotationals. Now, still going to have to try and open things up in terms of the hatch work here, but they've got plenty of hard breach to accomplish that. Just going to take a good portion of this remaining time back here as Foxy just knocks on the door down below a little bit there as he's in the midst of his sledging. Getting used to that land sledge still, apparently, as they work their way in.
Well, actually, he's breaking up the desk right now just so they can have angles downstairs via that hatch. It makes it to where this main stairs space is quite difficult to play. Saves will be able to rotate around or really contest things trying to get in towards Red Hall, so more than likely see Oxygen abuse that, whether it be through frag grenades or other means. They still have to get some of these hatches open, and that's exactly what you're hearing go off. Over inside of Square, Oxygen's already shifted gears downstairs into server as Yaga's sitting right outside of the site on the precipice of going for a plant here, but it's more than likely going to be a fake as there's a lot of utility stacked on this Na'Vi side.
Yeah, this is going to be one big fight to probably decide most of this round here as all teams, all players are sitting right at the threshold to enter in. Frag grenade goes in, that'll open up the Red Hull area. ADS is going to get burned out as well. Yaga already trying to move in and bait out players by at least going for the initial defuse attempt, and it works as Laxing's able to line up a nade against saves and get the first kill of the round at only about 40 seconds remaining here. They haven't been able to fish anyone else out from Na'Vi though, so this is still going to be a bit of a rough push as they move in. Nitro cell available, but Secretly can't deploy. He actually backs up a little bit too closely here, and Foxay finishes him off. Not only that, but saves the plan as that'll get that onto the ground. Yogg did get a little scared though and interrupted it for himself. Doki was able to find an exchange in the process, but he cannot lever that pressure onto the site anymore. They're going to try to rotate up the stairs instead, but still, you've got Kino in position to watch out over this. He's going to pick up one before he gets traded out, and Laxing comes in for the assist to shut down the round.
That's a textbook basement attack from Oxygen. Fantastic clear of the top floor. They saw what Na'Vi wanted to go for, and they respected it. That's the biggest thing. Clear out that top floor, force them downstairs, and then do what you do best. Set up that execution and start playing around that plant. I really love what Yaga did there as well. Did you see the amount of times that he attempted that plant? It was like 4 or 5 times, constantly trying to bait Na'Vi into bad positioning, and it worked out for Oxygen. Tossing in nades, pre-firing angles, Foxay also stepping up to actually save the life of Yaga as well from that nitro cell coming through. A lot of positive things for Oxygen here, but for Na'Vi, just could not get it done from the site play.
So some great adjustments ever since the first round here. Oxygen taking full control of this attacking side, which obviously they elected to go into, by the way. This is Navi's map choice, so Oxygen got the side choice here, so they chose to start out on this side, and so far, things are going quite swimmingly. This is the site where they found issue, though, but again, that was more due to, in my opinion, a bit of a misread into what Navi was doing, not able to catch some of the more aggressive players in the first few seconds like Doki, and eventually led to a downfall from there. They have certainly adjusted to account for that, so it's really on Navi here to come up with the winning counter as they head back to this site for a second attempt to win it as well.
Now we're really looking to Oxygen to try and shift how they're attacking this setup here, because as we've seen in the last couple of rounds, Oxygen really likes starting things around square, and this entire setup makes it really, really awkward to play that space. They have stock control still. You have Doki sitting inside of the main office space with that very long-range EBR. It's just very difficult to try and play around a lot of these, prerequisites that Navi have set in place. So for Oxygen, they're more than likely going to be looking to either try and take things via lobby or try and man these windows and make Doki's life a little bit harder.
You can see Doki was able to fend off a lot of the pressure from the windows. Doki has a lot of support against any sort of type of window pressure we get here too. Two of the laser gates, for instance, set up to assist him on either side of the castle barricades there. So you have the kind of two-tiered protection.
ADSs there as well.
Yep. So it's really almost impossible to take these out without dumping most of your utility on it. And man, Kino just so unlucky on this specific site as he takes a massive amount of damage from the very same player that did it to him on the last attempt here as well. He goes down to 25 HP, and it's once again Doki that is firing the shots off against him.
A little deja vu here is Navi finding a lot of success with this top floor strategy. Obviously not as built as we had seen on other rounds, but this one in particular getting away with quite a bit once again here. Be able to dust Kino and more than likely go for a little bit more. Doki worried about lobby now as well. And with Blur in tow, they can still get quite a bit done on this top floor. Now, what's the answer for Oxygen? We're already about halfway through this round, and as John had said before, Foxy doesn't have an answer on this window repel unless he steps up inside of CEO. And Doki, once again, you hear that rifle going off. He's going to tag up Laxing this time around.
You see how much damage it does too. Only one bullet really connecting onto Laxing, but still knocks out a massive chunk of his HP. Forces out at least the first adrenal surge from him as well to try to boost that up a little bit here. Some of the other players will use that. Maybe to get a bit aggressive, but you can't really do that right now. They don't have any safe path of entry, any safe path forward to work themselves into the site, because now we have that same issue that kind of befell them when they tried this site last time as well. Even though we're slowly starting to see Navi creep away from this upstairs hold, there's still a massive amount of presence spread out to areas like open and whatnot on the first floor as well, and Oxygen really just didn't have enough time to deal with that. Now, Laxing, I believe, is going to be able to catch some good damage off on a Doki, nearly taking him down, but most importantly, not getting him here. There we go. Foxy finally is able to finish him off, but what? He's wasted 2 minutes in the process of all this time trying to kill one player, so now OXG has to speed run the first floor clear, and they may not have enough time to do it proficiently.
Yeah, Doki's basically condemned them from this position, and once again, that rifle doing so much damage. Foxy is down to a single bit of HP, but that doesn't mean that Oxygen can't get away with this round. Some serious damage onto Secretly. He'll go down and lose his life here as Nath will actually follow through as well. Vertical's made his way inside of Archives. Yaga's there, and now it's Blur. He's not even in position to actually fend this off. He's all the way upstairs, worried about ghosts. He's fighting figures that aren't even here. All of Oxygen's on the mid floor. They're going to get the plant, and that's more than likely the round.
Yeah, Blur's going to try to open up some POVs from up on top, but unfortunately won't really be in a position to use that. Even so, 4 players from Oxygen sit ready to defend off against that. Back downstairs here, so as you said, this is going to be a very futile clutch attempt. Already losing half of his HP to a quick peek on the stairs. Even more than that on the second swing now. We're going to see more and more players just trying to make Blur as a moot point as possible here. Yaga is the one lined up against him by the staircase. Just one more bullet needed to take him out, and it's going to be an easy job as Oxygen secures a 3rd consecutive round, really taking full control of this attacking side.
See, this is where the ugly head is starting to show itself, John. We talked about this earlier as well as the analyst desk. Doki being the player for Navi when it comes down to it. Guys, they placed 8th, I do believe. Let me check my notes really quickly. We'll talk about this, but
right,
either way,
too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they placed 8th inside of Stage 3. Doki, positioning-wise inside of the players, 3rd best in all of Europe. Think about that for a second. That is a massive difference in placement overall for team and placement for player. So, we just cannot have the Doki show coming into this. We need to have all of Navi assisting him and trying to assist in winning these rounds. Otherwise, it's going to continue to be like this. The guy wastes basically 2 minutes and Oxygen still wins the round.
Now, to be fair, that's some good prep work that was done by OXG, as they knew that it was mainly just Doki wasting all that time upstairs. You could see they had a couple other players pretty much ready to go for the site attack downstairs once they had cleared him out, but that was the issue. They were waiting for him to go down. You gotta give props to OXG, though. As soon as they knock him out, they are wasting absolutely no time getting onto that site, and thankfully those first 2 to 3 entries go off without a hitch as well, so that even just pushes the point even further of how easily they're able to work their way into the site. Frag power from OXG is certainly something to be respected, at least against Na'Vi right now, as like you said, aside from Doki, we're not really seeing any of the other big proponents of Na'Vi show up as of yet. Most notably Nate here has unfortunately not been able to put in any huge numbers just as of yet here, where we've seen him do that in the past in the online leagues.
Yeah, I've got a huge respect right now for Oxygen's synergy. I think that's the biggest thing right now, is especially inside of that last round, all the damage that we saw from Doki and how they were forced to play that out inside of the opening moments. Really being patient for that pick up top, and once they got it, they immediately hit the site like you were talking about. So fantastic stuff from them, but either way, we're going to stick on this mid floor once again here for Na'Vi. They feel like it can possibly be open area to break this curse that they currently have here on the defensive side. Oxygen is getting away with too much here. Doki going to be changing things up as well. He'll be on the Malusi for this round. Also Blur bringing some frost traps along for the ride.
Just really iron the point home about how efficient Doki has been for this team. The 2 times we've seen the opening kill go to Na'Vi, they have both been from him as well. So no one else on the squad has been able to take one of those just as of yet. OXG has been splitting that between 2 of their players and might try to do the same thing here, as Kino is leading the charge this time as the team is working their way into square and quickly trying to clear out any second floor resistance that might be here. As you can see though, it's going to be a little light this time. Not really much presence whatsoever on the second floor from Na'Vi, as they'll focus instead on the main floor hold here and spreading out their presence there to hopefully confuse and catch OXG with a few surprise positions.
And Oxygen, so very patient with their clear upstairs. Not even halfway through this, the drone work coming through masterfully as they'll clear out the top floor. Foxay going to begin sledging things up and making a lot of these positioning, specifically for Blur right now in Archives, difficult to play. He'll have to move back into the small office and try and play around the hatch instead. A much safer space inside of this area, but also could be condemned later on depending on how Foxay wants to work that top floor. And the other big issue is 0 nitro cells on the defense right now. This might be a misread here from Nath as he has impacts, but we could see them still do some serious damage if he's able to land both of them.
We're getting very close to the push, and he's got to be careful here as we do have alternate angles, but no, Doki walks directly into him and vertical, given the opening kill virtually for free here due to his good positioning. That's going to put OXG in good positioning once again here. Eventually the Adrenal Surge helping them out a little bit as well. Say's pretty much just getting ready for the hard breach to work itself into staff room here as he has that impact prepped and ready to chuck at the roof here. The problem was last run didn't even get a chance to do the second one because of the lurk that eventually worked its way in. However, Stokes has mentioned, no, secretly here. Thankfully it goes off without a hitch, but that spray could have gone bad very quickly if Yaga didn't step out again to allow him to correct.
You want to talk about a scary moment as a Siege player. That one right there, right when you're tagging somebody's elbow and they don't instantly go down while you have the drop on them, that's always something to worry about, but luckily enough they'll be able to bag Yaga, and with the minimal amount of time left, Na'Vi are actually in a pretty solid spot to win this round. It's really up to Oxygen in the way that they can force Na'Vi into some corners here, making things a little bit easier for people like Vertical and Laxing to do some serious damage.
Kino once again in position to lead the charge for this team, and a great read on the audio cue as well. Notice he's secretly working himself up those main stairs and immediately sends him packing in the other direction here. Foxay, another great nade works out, but I believe that Tribe is actually going to catch him slightly as he works his way in. Either that, just some unfortunate timing. Either way, the trades come in. There's 5 seconds left to start the defuse attempt. Vertical will get it on the ground. Will he be able to stick it though is the question, as Blur sneaks up and stops it all on his own with the Ida, as we're going to see another round sneak in for Na'Vi.
Huge round there for Na'Vi, but you have to give it to Secretly on that flank. The only part of the entire map Oxygen was not worried about is somebody trying to rotate through the basement, and he's able to get away with it there in a big round for Na'Vi. Bank obviously being an offensive-sided map, these 2 rounds are definitely going to assist Na'Vi in the long run, but we'll just see if they could possibly get another one on the board. They are headed downstairs, where we saw Na'Vi go for that top floor roam, but immediately fall off and try and trust the site setup instead, where we saw Oxygen abuse that quite handedly. So this round could go either way. I think you gotta really give it up to the picks and what Doki can possibly produce inside of those opening moments.
Yeah, we saw unfortunately Doki getting caught out that time on the transition as the team was trying to fall back to the site with OXG rapidly taking control of things. but this time hopefully going to be able to contribute a little bit more. So once again, we'll see Na'Vi complete their second rotation of sites. No variance on that. Not really feeling the second floor hold today, as they fall in line with quite a few other teams' thoughts on that one. Instead, we'll just go back for a second attempt on all the sites they initially tried. Here, the basement is where they will finish off this half and look to try and take control of a third round to tie this up at 3-3.
I mean, not to mince words, but it is a pretty trash site when it comes down to it. You have all of the windows on the north side to deal with. You also have a lobby to deal with as well. Castle's necessary, especially for the checkers position there, which obviously leaves the quad window open so they can work the two double windows on the other side. I mean, it's just so many people bearing down on you in a lot of key positions inside of that site. It just makes it overall a pretty poor site to play. So I respect Navi's decision to not try and use that top floor and instead abuse both of the mid-floor areas, because it seems like they're quite comfortable in playing that. But as for this basement site, obviously, like we were talking about previously, definitely did not bode too well for them. Looks like Doki wants to try and follow suit as to what we had seen the last time. He's going hunting right now out towards lobby, but as we know with our X-ray vision, there's nobody home.
Yep, absolutely the case. So Doki will more than likely move into a more provisioned position over the next few seconds. I say that, but he's got someone knocking at the front door over there, so he might stick around instead. We'll check in with him a little bit later and see how that is going to potentially follow up. For Foxe, though, he has caught on to Doki's position just outside there, so they will hard lock onto that now and look to hunt him down. He's not actually going to have an easy way to get out of here either, because they've already put the pressure in from Square's side, and oh man, he's going to get absolutely ripped to shreds. Not much longer after that, Foxe pushes in from Banana to finish him off as well. Beautifully done by OXG as they hyper-focus on making sure Doki goes down yet again. This will be the third time he's going to be the first death in the round.
That was extremely well done from Foxe there. The comms overall from the team, you could see their synergy on that top floor in the way that they wanted to try and crunch onto Doki. Could not make it out alive in that position no matter what he did, especially with Laxing repelled on the windows. And now for Na'Vi, it's down to the site setup yet again here, but they're lacking a Doki-san, so we'll have to see what they can possibly get done. Vertigo going to be clearing everything out with IQ's utility as he scans through the floor to see exactly what they have to deal with, getting rid of a lot of different cameras and things along those lines just to make sure this info isn't being fed back to the offense.
Secretly, in the meanwhile, getting within shotgun range of Yogg.
Oh, he swung it!
Pumps him out from blue stairs and drops the case in the progress. Thankfully, the case is still in the open, so that's not going to be too much of an issue, but the lost player will, as that is their hard breach going down as well. More than likely with only a single, at most, thermite charge being used in the process. As we can see, Kino's a little bit lower on his torches as well, so actually might have not even gotten a single one off if that first hatch was open, but don't believe that was the case, as Kino still working on opening his first as well here with 3 remaining.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Secretly put his entire heart and soul into that M590 for that initial pick. It was one shotgun shell to rule them all, but now Foxe has been able to frag him out on blue. They open up quite a few avenues here, and now a lot to be done here for Na'Vi. Blur has already used his nitro cell, and he's still with a shield in his pocket as well for some odd reason. We'll have to see if he tries to slap that down later on, but either way, Vertical's going to get the big pick onto saves, and now it's up for Na'Vi to try and fight back, but it's not going to work out for them. It's all up to Nate. He's going to try and move his way up the stairwell, but don't really see this going too well for him. Oxygen's been pretty good about these flanks, all except for Secretly obviously getting his play around blue earlier on as Castle, but now the plant going down. Nate also trying to man the door. Laxing's got too many bullets for him to fight. He'll swing back in. The 100-rounder will get him.
A swift cleanup coming in there for OXG as we see multiple members of Na'Vi trying to stem the tide, trying to put that pressure back in themselves. Specifically, you saw that hatch play towards the end of it, but just nothing connecting, unfortunately, at the end of the day here from Na'Vi. And that's oftentimes the story of when Doki or another player is not able to slow down Oxygen's presence enough to be able to control the pace of the round as we got into that mid and late round portion. It was always OXG controlling it throughout that entire half, and that's a large part of the reason why they are now in a dominant stance at 4-2 coming off of that side.
Smooth and steady, baby. Smooth and steady is the Oxygen ship right now, and you know, they've got pretty calm waters, I would say. Doki obviously is the big menace that they have to deal with. This offensive side could change some things up for them, but they did a really good job of shutting him down overall on that defensive side, especially when it came to the second time that they had to attack the top floor when it came to the Archives offense. Dealt with him in a very, very convincing fashion in comparison to what they had done previously, especially inside of that last round as well. I think that's the best clear that we saw from Oxygen on the entirety of that offensive side, so tip of the cap to them, but either way, Na'Vi on this tag timeout, lots to talk about, especially coming to this offensive side.
All right, absolutely the case, ladies and gentlemen. And as soon as we get out of this tactical pause, we will be heading into that 7th round, the first round of the second half here, and this is going to be the best chance Na'Vi has for a rebound. Complete refresh as they switch sides here. Going to have to obviously read into the incoming strategy from OXG a little bit, but it's going to be a basement hold, as you guys should be able to pretty easily predict here. You haven't seen it yet, but we'll be seeing it in just a moment. Either way, though, not a huge amount of variance when it comes to NA strategy on that, so should be able to pretty predictably play in that first round.
We're pretty stuck in our ways, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yes, we are indeed. And you can actually see that coming in through here. But I mean, the big pickup coming through for Oxygen has got to be the Capcan. I know you guys can't see this, but we'll talk about it and try and break it down for you guys as much as possible. Capcan is actually an operator that we've been seeing quite a bit more often nowadays, which is pretty interesting. But luckily enough, we're actually not going to see him, even though I wanted to talk about him a little bit. It's pretty cool that you're able to put the EDDs, a multitude of them, on the same door now. That's the biggest thing. It used to be you could only put one on a single door, but now you can stack them up, which is pretty cool. Be able to take people out in a single blow, but not going to have to worry about that this round. Vertical instead taking Valkyrie, which means a lot more to the overall round here, and since Na'Vi doesn't have IQ, these cameras will probably stick around a little bit longer.
Yep, absolutely the case. Things continue to go well for Oxygen, not just in the strategy department, but from the individual department as well. Laxing, Foxe, Kano, Vertical, everyone really save for Yaga having a standout performance right now inside of this first game. You heard it before if you were watching one of our co-streamers we saw. I believe it was Iconic, kind of little impromptu phone interview with Kano before this game started. And he was saying, yes, I've been checking out, I've been keeping my ears in the community, and he was saying, no, we feel confident, we feel good about this matchup here. So that certainly has held true so far. Keep in mind though, folks, this is only map number 1, but at the same time, as you can see at the top right of your screen, this is the pick from Na'Vi, so certainly not the best of signs. And if we see OXG able to run their way through in this first map, as we get ready to head onto Coastline, I believe, for our second map. And indeed, that is the case. Getting into this 7th round, the first round of the second half, though, let's take a look at the opening gambit from Na'Vi, as they too are going to hold for a few seconds here. Work on the drone presence for just a few extra seconds here. Make sure there's no additional shenanigans being deployed in the first or second floors by Oxygen before they commit themselves to the inside.
Yeah, we'll get a better tell of the tape here inside of this round and really be able to dictate whether Oxygen is going to sweep this defensive side or what have you. You can see that they're pretty focused on this mid-level as of right now, or at least getting Yaga out. Also have that cardiac sensor out here for Laxing. Is Oxygen always picking up these little odds and ends, these tidbits that really help them out. I've always been a big fan of Pulse overall and what he brings to the table for a team, especially on a site like this in Bank. This is one of his bread and butter sites, and we always see Pulse inside of Gold Vault trying to read around what happens. But the beauty of a good Pulse is exactly what Laxing is doing. Playing around Yaga, playing around his teammates, trying to feed good information. And that's where a lot of these Z pings start to come in. You can see the 2 ping here from Lax as he's giving this information to Yaga on the positioning of these members. Good audio cue here as well. Yaga going to pre-fire this. They're going to try and bear down onto him. Is this the clone or is this the real one? It's the real one. And Doki's done. 3 and 7 on the game. They need him now, but he's nowhere to be found.
4th time he's been the opening frag as well, so things just continue to get worse and worse for Na'Vi as they cannot keep one of their most consistent players in the game. And like I said before, other players, at least individually, are not standing out enough as of yet to make up for that lack of impact here. Starting to see some good team play come out from Na'Vi, especially in the late round to fend this off, but compared to the individual skill of Oxygen, it is not meeting itself to be enough as of yet. Foxe running out of time here to get himself out of server. He's going to try to make the transition, but has caught himself in a very awkward position because of that hatch you can see at the top left side of the screen now. That red silhouette could be the death of him here if he's not allowed out. Good nitro thrown in by Vert. Will it catch secretly, though? Looking like a no on that one, as I don't even think it got a chance to blow up secretly, more than likely shooting it out while it was still in the air. As Na'Vi saves the day in that respect.
Good clay pigeon move there, and Nath, oh no, a misread on, I believe, Kino's position, just not expecting him to be in blue for some odd reason, and gets dusted right on the wall. And now for Na'Vi, I mean, this is basically all she wrote, unless Secretly can do something with these Selma charges. They desperately need him in the moment. With the amount of bodies Oxygen has, I mean, they might as well go on the flag with what Foxe's doing. He's got 1 HP, might as well throw it at the wall, hope that it sticks. They're going to be starting to break down the wall here with the Selma charges, and with 20 seconds remaining, they desperately need this plant.
Secretly able to work his way into the depths of security at a minimum, but not expecting Vertical to be close to the entry door. Foxe gets a second. From Vert to finish it off as well. He has a massive individual round, and OXG surge forward, just 2 points away now from shutting down the first map.
I mean, Oxygen's looking crispy right now. Cool as a cucumber inside of this position, and yet another plentiful round from them, especially coming out of the cardiac sensor there from Laxing, being able to read out all of the positioning from Na'Vi practically across the board. A really knew what was going on for the entirety of that round, especially with Fox A playing over inside of server. Once he gets taken down, obviously we see the big shots there from Kino on the smoke inside of the stairwell. I mean, it just seemed as though Oxygen could not do wrong inside of that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we will move into round number 8. Like we said before, OXG in a dominating pole position so far in this first map here. Only a few more rounds needed for them to take control, and they are going to feel themselves on the second floor site here, so they'll be transitioning up into that one and try their luck with this, where Na'Vi chose to avoid it completely.
I've got one for you.
Yeah.
I want you to guess the win rate of Oxygen on this map.
Like, in what context? Like,
over the last, handful of, seasons, just like the last 6 months. What do you think the win rate is? Yes.
I don't think they played it, really.
Well, I mean, they have a round win percentage.
It's like 20, I think.
It's 22%.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
I was going to say, because I was bringing up earlier, the only, in like the last 3 months, the only times they played it was at the major, so... It's not a great track record there, but
yeah,
obviously, like we said, that's like a real skewed example because of the circumstances surrounding their attendance at that major. So,
yeah, especially with how often they played Bank in Stage 3, which was like never.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think they played it in Stage 3.
Yeah, I don't believe so either. But in comparison to Na'Vi with a 54% win rate, that is just a massive difference in between the two. So for Na'Vi, quite the long road ahead of them. Nath is actually going to be changing things up. He's going to be bringing in the Monty instead with a secondary hard breach, something that could be abused. Not so much on this site, but definitely on some of the other sites where we see a lot of hatch play come in. He's more than likely just here for the immense pressure that Monty puts on the defense.
Already 30 seconds into it here, but you can see once again a very slow and tempered Na'Vi as they do not want to misstep yet again, especially to lose someone like Doki or even another player in the opening moments. And it's actually going to be the small office just outside of the lobby that looks like it's going to be the main entry point for this team, as we have 3 players stacked in that area ready to work their way in. Doki leads the charge again, but again as well. He'll be caught once more by Vertical as well. 5 times now. He's been the first death here. Just cannot find any sort of luck in these opening engagements.
5 times in 8 rounds, folks. That's more than 50% of the opening bloods going not only to Oxygen, but on to Doki. Insane numbers being put up from Oxygen here in the way that they've been handling Bank overall. Navi stunted as of right now. And just as...
Sorry to cut in. I think it's also the 4th time specifically that he's lost to Vertical as well.
I mean, Vertical's just absolutely disgusting. The only reason that he wasn't the best player inside of North America this last stage is because Hot and Cold exists. That's it. He had a 1.48, by the way, I do believe, off the top of my head there. We'll see if the Liquipedia brain's working today. But either way, Oxygen, once again, getting away with the bag here inside of this round. And the big issue right now is Nate doesn't actually have a gun. He's got his shield, and you don't have Doki. So what do you do next, folks? Well, more than likely lose. We'll have to see, though, as Blur hits a big nade here onto Vertical. And this is what we need to see out of this Na'Vi squad.
Blur has been one of the players we've been looking to see step up. The Des talked about it as well. And so far seems to be there as the team needs him. Best kill record so far on the squad, and certainly the most impact inside of this round with that nice nade. Be able to trade out onto Vertical. Time starting to get a little low, though. Fonse had a chance to shoot him in the back, but the Nitro does it just as well. Nate goes down, and just like that, OXG is back in control with a case down on the ground outside Banana as well.
And I really don't think that there's an answer to the positioning of Na'Vi right now. You have Laxing inside of the Laxing spot, playing it here inside the elevator. Blur has to try and get something done here on Banana, but Kino's already here. Going to be able to take him down with the SMG-11. Fox tags onto secretly, and now some saves on Marble. Trying to work his way up, but still some utility to try and deal with these SMG-11s in hands of both the SAS ops, but it's actually Laxing with the pistol instead. He'll work his way up, be able to dust him here. And actually, it looks like a little bit of insult to injury. He had the MP5 SD out, but he's like, I'll just use the secondary.
Sidearm it, yeah.
I mean, why not?
Good way to end the round, as we saw the previous round end with a sidearm kill as well. The Deagle kill coming out from Vertical closed down their basement hold. As now we sit with OXG on map point here, and only 1 full rotation of sites needing to be completed to accomplish that. So they're going to head back over to Staff at open area. They've got a 4-round buffer to build off of as well, so if things go poorly here, cool. We got basement unlocking in the next round, and if that doesn't work out, you can go right back up to the 2nd floor as we just saw.
So are you saying that Oxygen is probably going to win this map?
I think the odds are in their favor. Probably a good way to describe it.
Probably forever in their favor as of right now, I'd say. I mean, this is immense for them. I don't really think that there's a way that Na'Vi can fight back in any convincing fashion. The biggest thing right now is obviously the picks going on to Doki, but past that, Na'Vi isn't able to fend off any of these Oxygen members by themselves. And this is going to continue to be a very difficult thing for them. It seems as though throughout the rest of the tournament, I was hoping that we would see a different kind of Na'Vi coming into this from stage 3, but it seems like they're still up to their old antics, sadly.
So let's see if there's going to be any adjustment for them in the cards as we inch close to the end of this first map. Keep in mind, still have maps 2 and 3 around the corner after this one, so there are going to be chances if you're in the Na'Vi camp at home to redeem yourself and the rest of your team.
Well, just as a reminder, our second map is Coastline, and that is statistically Na'Vi's worst map.
Well,
so
just trying to give them some hope.
Listen, EU has plenty of hope. They've had hope for years, John. This is where we get to dash it away. Exactly. We pull the rug out from under them. You know, we got to at least be truthful in what we're talking about, especially with how impressive Doki was during stage 3. To see him be at 3 and 8 right now and having things like this happen to them, I mean, what can possibly be done? Saves will be able to get a refrag, but I mean, Saves really needed it. That's a second kill of the whole game.
Yep. Foxe is going to be able to sneak out and basically guarantee a 1-for-1. Wanted to be a little bit fast and see if he could sneak.
It's actually worse than that, John. That's the sledge.
That's true.
That's
very, and,
oh, no.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize that we're on an open site as well.
Oh, no.
All of that top down, not going to happen now, and they do not have a way to make up for it in terms of secondary utility on someone else, I don't believe.
They don't have any secondary to be able to do anything at all. You're completely correct. Doki has nades, he has the ARX, that can at least break up some things. Everyone wants to waste some mags on stuff, but like really their only option, I guess, would be Nath possibly putting some secondary hard breach down on the floor. Big pick up here from Secretly, he'll be able to take down Vertical, and obviously since Fox's already lost his life earlier on, this is going to be an advantage towards Na'Vi, but what do they do with this now that they can't use that verticality?
Just going to have to leverage the numbers advantage some way, somehow, and crunch this from the first floor. But so much hard breach set up to counter that back out. Thankfully, again, Secretly still alive, and Laxing with a dash out into the open just absolutely catches Saves in the midst of it. Takes him out and evens us out once again, allowing for Oxygen to play the safe game once more, fall back and keep themselves nice and tucked away close to their site, as they have no real reason to throw out aggression at this point in the round here, especially as we are already halfway through it, and both Secretly and Doki have already taken on some heavy losses in their HP as well.
Na'Vi back onto the info game, but might be too little too late at this point. A minute and 10 seconds, still have that top floor, but as we were talking about before, no way to actually abuse that. They'll instead have to try and funnel in towards site and fight these Oxygen members, but they really need a solid info base to work off of to make this happen. Doki at least knows that one is playing inside of open area, but Kino could be inside of any of these cubicles at any moment in time, and with Yaga also here on Marble, I mean, there's just not very many avenues for Na'Vi to actually get in towards site. Secretly is going to start breaking things up with the Selma charges on the kitchen wall, so this could be a sign of where they want to try and put this plant, but they're going to need a little bit more of a break here for Nate to try and work his way in, but he'll instead choose the kitchen door as he'll try and get in behind the island. Now the big thing now for Na'Vi is that they can actually get a plant inside of this space. They don't have any smokes, and with Doki with a pick onto Laxing, this can definitely be done.
Yeah, absolutely the case. They've been given more than enough room to work this plant. Yog is able to find the exchange on the Doki. The Nitro's out, but I think it falls a bit short. Nice catch from Yog on the second frag, and now it's only Nath alone, and unfortunately he will be cut down very, very quickly by the shotgun. Great retake, and a quick one at that from Oxygen, and they are going to absolutely shut down Bank here with a 7-2 scoreline.
The last thing you want to see for a Monty is a 1 versus 2. That's the last thing that you want for anyone that's playing that operator. 7-2 victory for Oxygen in very convincing fashion. It didn't seem like they were worried about anything at all. Even inside of the rounds that they lost, they were still quite close. A lot of it was the Doki show still, and that's just a sad sight to see.
Absolutely the case. Like we said, got first killed 5 times, 4 times specifically by Vertical. And on top of that, when he was prevalent earlier on in those first couple of rounds of the first half, we saw some great progress made by him as he was picking up 2 first kills himself. But again, that all fell off due to the very, very quick adjustments that we saw Oxygen make for themselves after that first round didn't go off the way they expected to. They slowed it down. They punished the over-aggression, those little peaks for info that Na'Vi were starting to make for themselves. And from that point forward, they were in full control, it seemed, of not only their attacking half, but as they switched over to defense, seemed to have very little problems there as well, controlling the large majority of the rounds.
That was a super solid bank overall from Oxygen. I mean, you really got to give it to them. The info game was strong. Their picks were amazing. There really wasn't anything there where you're like, oh yeah, that's completely abusable from Na'Vi. You know what I mean? So very difficult straights here for Na'Vi, and it's going to get even harder as we're headed to Coastline next.
So the case, it is going to be a chance for them to reset and rethink their strategy now that they've gotten the full breadth of OXG's own aggression, but as you were talking about earlier, the stats for Na'Vi on Coastline do not bode well. And meanwhile, it's one of the most played maps, I believe, inside of North America. Certainly one that many of the North American teams feel comfortable on. So that is going to make those players feel very, very comfortable. We're going to go to a short break, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere, as when we return, we will have the second map between these two teams.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can see OXG feeling quite confident about their performance in the first map here, and now getting ready to jump onto map number 2. That map will be Coastline, once again favoring our friends over on OXG quite a bit here in the statistics departments. We'll have to see if Navi can bounce back, and there's a lot of things they need to bounce back here going into the second map. Let's talk a little bit about that, Stokes.
Yeah, pretty negative showing there from Navi, and honestly, I'm not even happy to say that, even if I am from NA. I love the Navi guys. I've always loved the organization as well. It's a really sad sight to see right now, especially for Doki and what he was doing in Stage 3. The second best, or rather third best player in all of EU, whilst also being on the 8th place team, but 3-8 inside of that game, and opening blood 5 times. That's not what we expect to see out of him.
Yeah, we can see that once again. The stats showing up in front of us, and showing that case as, the KD for him not showing it too well, and you can see the first kill percentage as well. 2 and 5 and only a 0.49 rating. Keep in mind, a lot of that not necessarily his direct fault. In a lot of those rounds, he's being put out on an island and not really being given any type of support. So that's one type of change I'd like to see. I don't know if we're going to get it this quickly moving directly into another map, but if they can find a way to get an additional player onto at minimum guarantee trades should he go down, that'll make the team's performance a lot better, and at minimum slow down those attacking rounds from OXG, whereas we saw quite a few times after they were able to focus him down, they just ran through the rest of the team without too much of an issue. So need to try and find a way to patch that up and do it quickly if they want to start this tournament outright.
Yes, absolutely. If you're putting somebody out on Roam like that, you need to bring the utility to support them. Otherwise, you're going to get that. That's really it at the end of the day. The rounds where we saw utility around Doki, he thrived. When there was no utility around Doki, he got collapsed on, and there was no way for him to fight back against the OXG onslaught. So the big issue with that as well is we're going into Coastline where all of that is paramount to your success. If you put anyone extended out with 0 utility, they're dead. There's no way that that person is making it out alive in the slightest, to be honest with you.
We've already seen multiple times as well that OXG have no problem adjusting to those types of players and hard focusing them if the need should arise. We had one round where like 3 different players were trying to hunt down Doki on his second floor room. So that is going to be a problem once again here as we move into the second map. So we'll have to wait and see how exactly they'll try to fix that. Maybe Navi again try to change up the gameplay a little bit more every once in a while too. As we saw in the first round, their facing did catch OXG off guard, and at least in one other round, a nice flank they were able to pull off through blue stairs also caught the OXG players off guard, removed a very nice piece of utility, and eventually they were able to leverage that into a win. So it's not all bad for Navi, it's just a lot of it is bad.
Yeah,
so they're going to have to find a way to batten down the hatches very quickly here if they want to try and come back and push us onto a third map on Clubhouse.
Yeah, it's like a really beautiful person, but they got ugly clothes on. That's really what it is at the end of the day. I mean, hey, man, it is what it is. But hopefully they can try and switch gears and get some things going here on Coastline. I really think that there's a lot for them to get done, but I think that they have the capability to do it. We know that saves and blur are no slouches when it comes down to it. We just need to see more of that energy from Stage 1 and Stage 2 of last year.
Another big proponent for OXG that went very well for them inside of that last map, Kino having a great stand-up performance. Oftentimes a bit of a question mark for this team in terms of how well OXG is going to do at any given event. And while things have been a little bit mixed in the online stage, Kino so far here, based on that first map performance, doing very, very well, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I was going to say about that is not getting picked nearly as much either. That's been the big thing for Oxygen inside of that last stage as well, is not only is he the hard breach, but he was actually the most picked player on the whole team as well on top of that. That's not what you want to see out of your support player, but either way, it looks like social media is getting away with it on this one. Once again, 51 to 49% as we start on Coastline.
All right, so let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. Here, we will see if Coastline will give Navi the lifeline they need to come back in this series and at least try to get themselves a few more points out of this matchup, or if OXG will just run them over outright with another one that should play into their favor. If you are just joining us, welcome. You missed the first map, and we're going to spoil it for you here. It was 7-2 in the favor of OXG as they take a very one-sided map for themselves. Now time to see if we can get any change up in that department as OXG get the first ban for our second map, and they're going to go right for the Lion ban, who has become a mainstay here on Coastline. Tends to be a pretty good choice to knock him out.
Yeah, a ludicrous operator when you can get your hands on him here for Coast. Makes things so difficult for the defense when it already is.
Both of them.
I mean, honestly, this is what I was talking about earlier with Navi and these very unique bans. I personally love this Finka ban. She's came into the meta in such a convincing way with not only the LMG, but also the boosts to her adrenal surges and the way that those work now. So we're not playing with Operation Chimera. I'm sure a lot of people are happy about that. Valkyrie also going to be removed here as Oxygen will have our last ban.
Absolutely the case, and this one's going to be an interesting one as we go over towards a Maestro ban. Used to be pretty common to see him get knocked out, but it's a far cry now as we're going to see instead OXG take it out of play. We still see him become a mainstay operator for so many teams on defense on this map, so it makes sense to remove that comfort pick at a minimum. It's just if the utility being knocked out is going to be proficient enough for OXG's purposes, we'll find out about that as we get into our first round.
Yeah, incredible information coming out of that op, as well as having that LMG that everyone knows so well, and honestly proving that the magnification of sights is actually played into a lot of the bans coming through, or just the way that, you know, operators are looked at overall by teams and just Siege players overall. You know, obviously Maestro dropping off a cliff inside of bans overall, whereas we used to get Maestro, Echo, like every single game. Nobody wanted to allow any of those defenders to try and walk the earth, but this time around we won't have the Maestro to play around, so we could be possibly seeing some Echo if they do want some extra info or denial on the site, but we'll have to see. He's not going to be around for the first site. Here's Oxygen's going to be headed to double bar for their very first defense.
The bars are up first here for OXG, which is a site we've seen them go to quite often initially, and quite a few other teams as well since the slight rework or buff for this map came into play a couple months back here, and we saw some slight changes made. So I think this one was mainly untouched for the most part here. We saw mainly a lot of changes coming in on the upstairs partition towards like VIP and whatnot. Those are where we saw the biggest change, but we will see that come into play a little bit later on some of the other sites, most notably over towards like theater and whatnot. It's not going to be super relevant for this play here. What is going to be though is that big opening leading into Blue Bar. If you're watching and you're a bit of a newer viewer to Siege, that site on your left, the one that the holes are being made for at the moment, is difficult, to say the least, to play directly inside of. So, considering that, this is a good strategy because you can extend your play over towards the main lobby, and in the event the attacking team is able to get control of the office at the bottom left side of the screen and work their way into that blue room. Look at me getting away. Laxing's already got the opening kill against Blur. But yeah, if you're able to let your opponents take control, you can use the front lobby control to fire back into the site. Is the point I was trying to make.
It's the sludge again.
No, was it really?
Yeah, it was the sludge again.
Oh,
but luckily, they have the buck this time.
Yeah.
So they have an answer. They have something here to be able to work the top floor, because if they didn't have buck, you can basically already call the round here. They're going to have to try and funnel into sight and fight these people, but they still have an opportunity to try and take this top floor and get Nath in here. Now, the big thing is that Nath cannot be traded out. Nath needs to stay alive inside of this round and try and work this top floor, but this has also stunted the growth of Navi inside of round one already.
Absolutely the case, is they're going to be starting out from behind, but Doki back in form here. He's able to catch Yaga this time, knocking him out and quickly evening us back out into a 4v4 scenario here on his lonesome as well. So still going to have to be a little bit careful about how he proceeds for the next few moments, but judging from our POV and the silhouettes that we can see, it looks like he's fairly safe after picking up that kill. That's more than likely Yaga being out on an island a little bit on his own, playing the Malusi.
Foxay will fall back off of the top floor and slap up some last-second reinforcements here, just make it a little bit more difficult for them to gain access towards blue. They're going to knife the angle and just see if anybody is upstairs still, but nobody home inside of this space. This will give Navi some time to actually work this flooring, and that's exactly what Nath is going to hop into. No Nitro cells to try and answer this, so it's going to have to be straight-up gunfights through the verticality here for Kino and the rest of the squad. Doesn't get a good enough audio read on that, so doesn't choose to try and fend it off just yet, but for Navi, can still get quite a bit done here with that case control still on secretly, and their ability to break up a lot of this flooring. It's going to make it hard for Oxygen to try and stay inside of Sunrise. Kino will be forced back, but with his positioning now, it's really just about trying to bait out a lot of the utility from the defensive end. But when you have people like Foxay just running around the map being a menace, it's going to be difficult, as now they've lost Doki.
They've run around the world here as far as this map is concerned, working himself from office earlier all the way up the front lobby main stairs. Laxing's going to get caught out by secretly through, I believe, the kitchen window, however, and that'll lead to his elimination a few seconds later, now knocking the mute out of play. Smoke is still in check. Ooh, Vertical nearly getting caught by secretly as well there. Good placement from secretly, not able to get that second or third bullet needed to get the full kill against Vert. It does get him the back up, though, and this is going to be an open window for secretly and probably the rest of Navi to push in. Secretly, ooh, a tense one as he does get himself here. He's trying to find the jump up spot. No. Oh no, it's not working out for him, and he's going to get smoked out. Keep him on timer, too. Only 15 seconds left for this team to get in position to get that plant down on the ground.
Such a difficult moment now for Na'Vi as they're trying to hold things down onto site. The Skeleton Key coming out, but he can't get it done. Secretly's been dusted, and Kino makes the play. Nath has to hold it from the top floor, but he can't get it done. The Skeleton Key cannot find the smoke, and Oxygen find their mark.
What a play from Kino as well, just rushing himself in there. We talked about how he was a prominent player inside of that first map, but he immediately makes himself the go-to inside of round number 1 for our second map as well, saving the day there, preventing that plant from going down on the ground, and more importantly, Na'Vi getting the site control that they would have needed to leverage a plant for themselves. Beautiful hold, a little bit dodgy here and there as they lose a couple of players in the midst of it. It's much better aggressive presence from Na'Vi overall compared to the first map's results, but still, OXG on top as they take the first round.
Yeah, Na'Vi very forceful on that top floor. I love the entry there from Doki, but it really was just an answer to Oxygen getting that early pick. They had to get something done there, but the way that Oxygen ended up working the map and what they gave to Na'Vi was really what I wanted to highlight. The way that they worked Sunrise, especially Kino being allowed back in, that was the biggest moment of that entire round there. If Nath actually is able to land his shots through the bars, and obviously Kino's movement isn't as quick, then you more than likely see a Na'Vi round going inside of round 1, but that's not what was in the cards, unluckily enough for Na'Vi. So Oxygen going to get away with this one as they head towards the top floor for Hookah for the very first time.
Foxy, I think a big piece of that round as well, the sneak kill that he's able to get for himself back over towards the main stairs, as well as the time-wasting mechanisms he deploys over towards the office, just the general south side of the map that he takes control of for himself. Works out beautifully as Na'Vi choose to not mess around with him or anyone else in the area. And like I said before, he was able to leverage himself at least 1 kill from the stragglers of Na'Vi that were trying to get together in that last minute or so as well. It's upstairs hold on the docket now here for Oxygen, and they are going to put quite a bit of a heavy amount of defense in the usual positions here, so no crazy diversions in terms of their setup.
No, pretty straightforward in the way that we would see Hookah played. Obviously, we're going to have some bodies downstairs, but with a map like Coastline, it's to be expected. You really want to hold as much pressure across the map as possible and force Na'Vi to take it. You don't want to just give it to them. Obviously, that last round was a little bit different. That was some planned strategy around Oxygen in the way that they wanted to do some things with those toxic smokes. So we'll have to see exactly how they want to break it down this time around. Actually got a body here inside of Penthouse. Vertical could run into some trouble from the double window, but nobody on Repel currently, so safe to play this space as of right now. And as you were talking about earlier with Blue Bar, there's actually quite a few no-manned lands around this space, and this happens to be one of them. Penthouse is a very difficult area to try and stay alive in, but I mean, this could be a big round here as they're trying to clear out this space. It's going to be a prone from Doki, but he tries to stand up. It's going to ADS him, or rather un-ADS him instead, and that's going to be 2 picks for Oxygen inside of the first minute 30.
It's 5 times now that Vert has won against Doki also for the opening kill, as that record continues to get worse and worse, unfortunately. Trying desperately to turn it back around, but indeed, that second kill also coming in from Oxygen just puts things in an even worse position. Vertical low, so a good chance to maybe exchange on that, but he's got some support, as you can see there, over inside of Theater from Laxing, so even then, the kill isn't guaranteed to be clean. The hop-in comes in, and oh no, they don't even realize that Vertical is still hiding behind the dresser here. Laxing kind of steals that one, but all good. Secretly will trade out onto Vert, and then pick up another one for himself against Secretly as he tries to push out from the VIP hall.
It's just very poor trading here from Na'Vi. They don't have the information to be doing what they're doing right now, and it's really, really harming them. This is basically just a round for Na'Vi to try and talk. That's more than likely why we saw Blur try and make his way towards the white window. They wanted to try and get away from some things. Also tossing the Nitro Cell out there just as an audio cue as well. Oxygen firing on all cylinders here on Coastline.
Yeah, really trying to take control of this one quickly as they give Na'Vi 0 map control, even when they absolutely could have there inside of that opening gambit they played for themselves over towards the theater as well as master bedroom area. And they're going to head over towards that now inside of the penthouse. They'll go directly to the site to play and do this hold for their 3rd rotation before we possibly see them rotate back down to the bars. They still have Kitchen as an available site choice as well if they want to go all the way around the world and play all 4 sites.
Now, we don't want to just sit here and be, Na'Vi, whatever you want to call it, Na'Vi haters, Na'Vi doubters, whatever.
Na'Vi negative.
Yeah, Na'Vi negative. The big thing here for Na'Vi as of right now is trying to work around the pick game early on and trying to work in the information. They are lacking in that department. We see it time and time again with Na'Vi on their offensive sides where they don't know what Oxygen is exactly doing, but they're willing to try and take the fights. That's what Oxygen wants you to do. That's exactly why they're playing this way. Vertical's not just going to sit behind the wardrobe in Penthouse if he knows that you're going to miss-drone him. You know what I mean? So it's just very difficult right now for Na'Vi. I'd really like to see them dedicate some more time to try and clearing out the map properly instead of giving away so many frags to Oxygen.
And to continue to talk a bit more positive light, OXG, this is an absolutely fantastic start to the tournament for them if they're going to be able to stay in this shape against the other teams in the group as well here. OXG, a team that, for me at least in my recollection of them showing up to these big events, has always really been a heartbreak team as they've come into it with such promise, such high hopes to be able to go very far, and with oftentimes a lot of the community agreeing with that sentiment, only for them to get eliminated very close to the end of a group stage for some very unfortunate events, like one or two very sad
not
misplays.
again, man.
Save's gonna get caught once, or I can't even finish my opening monologue every side of these rounds here, as we're going to see yet another opening kill go by the way of OXG.
I mean, I was just looking you right in the eyes. I don't even know where he got shot from. It was within 15 seconds of the opening of the round. And that's something to expect when it comes to Coastline as well. You expect a lot of spawn peaks to happen, but for Na'Vi, it's just not clicking in the moment. Doki's been discovered downstairs as well from the proximity sensor. You can see Yaga trying to bear down on the Vibe staircase, but he's going to lose a lot of his HP. More than likely going to lose this fight as well because the ARX is just so powerful, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Doki now securing Vibes. This will be able to lock this down at least for some time, but they're going to need quite a few other answers around this area. Doki once again stepping up to the plate with lack of information and ends up getting dusted by Vertical, who's going to be able to get Blur as well. They're just simply getting away with so much here. He's just walking around billiards and killing everyone.
And Na'Vi seemingly oblivious almost to his positioning there. It seemed like at least two players would have had good POV onto him. We saw the drone obviously spotting him out when it jumped through, but just no one able to follow that through to get a kill against him, and it's left secretly all on his lonesome here in a 1v3 with, unfortunately, still about half the map worth of utility to clear here. He's got such a rough path in front of him. He does have a good time bank at minimum with 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining, but it is just so tough for him to work himself forward, and even with the hard breach utility sitting in his pocket, it's going to be tough to get anything done here in a 1v3 when he's already lost a third of his health.
What were they saying on the analyst desk? It's pretty rough for a team when your top frag is your hard support player. That's really the big thing that we've been seeing inside of these last two games. Secretly has been asked to do so very much. I believe we had saves, I do believe, or actually no, I do believe it was actually, no, it was saves, I do believe. That was actually the top frag for that last map. But either way, I mean, as of right now, Secretly trying to work his way up white, but this is basically the round once again. There's really not too much he's going to be able to get away with, especially with the way that Oxygen's been playing this. I mean, look, they're doubled up. I don't exactly know what was happening inside of Vase there, but Laxian's going to be able to clean it up. I don't know really what he was... Oh, I see. So just a little bit of a mismovement there as he leaned back in as soon as the peak comes through. Little scary moment there for Oxygen as he got the isolated 1v1s, but they're able to dust him instead. And that's going to be 3 rounds on the defensive side of Coastline.
I think he might have been looking at one of his teamates' eyes as well during that one. Caught for just a second, but all good as OXG still had the ultimate advantage in what would eventually become a 1v2 to shut that one down. It's the last player live from Na'Vi. So it is just going to be a quick re-rotation, it looks like, from OXG, as they are going to choose to not head back to, or rather not head onwards onto a kitchen hold. They'll just go right back to the double bars for this upcoming round here. But obviously, as you guys can see on your screen now, it's going to be a moment before we get into that, as we have to go for that tactical pause for Na'Vi, and a very much needed one at that.
Yeah, absolutely. They have got to get this info game in check, because otherwise this is going to be probably the easiest 7-0 that Oxygen's had. They're constantly getting these opening picks. Vertical is fending off practically the entire team at once. It seems like they can do no wrong no matter what is happening. So for Oxygen as of right now, stick to your guns. Keep doing what you're doing. Apply the pressure. Do not back off of that accelerator in the slightest. For Na'Vi, it's about these opening frags and working around people like Doki to give you the map control that you're looking for. They are not doing any of this right now. We're not seeing any Gemini usage. We're not seeing drones around this man. We're seeing some info come through, but then Vertical kills 3 people. So, I mean, it's a really difficult ship to be a part of right now.
Almost like ignorance to a certain extent of the intelligence, specifically with that Vertical.
It's not Bliss right now either. Like,
so we have to wait and see here what Na'Vi is going to bring to the table in their 4th attacking round coming up right here. You can see the replays. And once again, we were just talking about it. Here's that run from Vertical where he's just allowed to go rampant. Not in any sort of very covered position either, just out in the open by billiards, and finally secretly saves the day as the last player standing by cutting him off from the big window out on Hookah balcony. It was far too late as he already claimed 3 kills by that point. So OXG takes the cake yet again there. 3 rounds in a row for them on this second map. Continues onward from the last map as well. OXG have been shutting it down here. As Stokes mentioned, is going to look for a very quick closeout to the series at 2-0.
Not a single negative KD right now on Oxygen, whereas Na'Vi only has Secretly at 4-2, and that's practically because he's been the last one alive and had to try and get those frags. Very difficult for him inside of these last couple of moments, but hopefully the tactical timeout can assist them. The biggest thing, though, about that tactical timeout is you can see the frustration in Navi, especially in Doki. He's not happy with how things are going right now, and I mean, how could you be?
Which is a huge far cry from what the analysts were saying their thoughts were as they were kind of like walking over to their desk and whatnot, getting ready. They were like super happy. Doki was like waving, sending out some big vibes, but
he was waving because he was leaving early. That's what it was. We like to have fun here, folks. It's nothing serious. Navi just has quite a few things that they need to get figured out. Also, on top of that, they're playing against Oxygen in probably their best form that we have ever seen them.
Yeah.
So,
Oxygen.
I mean, it's very difficult right now for Navi to, even when they do the right things, actually, try and get ahead of Oxygen. It's just so very hard.
Foxy going to go lurking over here outside of the luggage hallway. Nearly is able to catch an angle against one of the players from Navi on the roof as well. Just a couple pixels off of where he'd be able to see them, so not going to catch anyone this early on. A much slower push once again here from Navi as they are using all this extra time for themselves to clear out the utility. Doki nearly getting cut off by the player on the main stairs, going to be Yaga, but Yaga also mistimes his own shot. Backs away though instead of keeping himself in that position, so he's going to be able to save his own life as well as avoid the conflict versus Doki at the top of these stairs.
Time and time again, Navi clear things in the same fashion, obviously knowing that Doki is going to be coming through theater and trying to get towards the top of white stairs. Laxing doesn't even need a pulse sensor for that, just a nitro cell over by DJ. He'll be able to clean up Nath, and that's going to be some of the soft destruction off of the board. But yet again, Oxygen with the opening blood. Doki trying to fight back towards Yaga down low, but they already know that they have this in the bag. They just need to play patiently and allow Navi to sweat this out.
Already an advantage, and like you said, no real reason for OXG to over-aggress at this point with that advantage in their control. They do seem to have some intel on a few players upstairs, so Yog is going to join up with Foxy over here closer towards security. Saves will be able to grab the exchange, though, and catch an one, but 2 kills as Doki adds one to the counter as well. That's Yaga going down, and Navi able to recenter themselves, retake control of the player advantage here as it comes down to a 4v3 with the most recent pickup from Doki. How do they carry this forward, though? Kino going to lurk himself up. Oh, had a freebie, but no longer. Doki's ready for the fight now, and Kino doesn't want to challenge it any further despite nearly knocking off Doki's head there. He's got very, very low HP count now.
Quite a bit of damage dealt to Doki, though, and a little bit done to Kino, and this could be the difference maker here. As we'd seen previously, Navi was able to set up for the plant inside of Sunrise, but Kino playing spoils to that positioning as he was allowed to work in towards Sunrise. That was Nath, though, on the cover the last time. This time, it's Blur. Does he have the better reaction time of the two? We'll have to see. Nitro out, but does Kino go back into the nade? He does. He'll walk back in, but not before he takes down a body. It's a 2 versus 3 here, as they're going to try and send it into sight. Laxi with a beautiful frag, and I think he knows where the last ones are as well. Foxy's got the positioning up top, might be able to fight the player in around this space. He stopped the plant, and with both of them alive, he'll be able to get away with the round as he sprints into blue, and Oxygen claim round 4.
Foxy not even going to chance it there on that final gunfight. Way too much obscurity inside of the smoke, so just dashes his way over into blue and plays out the rest of the timer. OXG cannot be stopped, even with the tactical pause, and a fairly good attacking round coming out from Navi. Those positions from OXG were powerful enough to get a quick retake going to stop the plant and waste out the remaining time bank.
Oxygen is just constantly draining them, especially inside of these rounds where Navi's able to fight back, to just the perfect point where they don't have everything that they want in order to achieve what they're doing. Inside of this plant right here, they really need that top control. Sunrise is very important to have Hookah to make sure that these plays can't go on. But what do we see? Nobody upstairs, and all of a sudden Foxy is sitting on the Hookah hatch simply waiting for a read as to where the plant's going down, able to take him out and run away. And that's going to be 4 rounds now in a row for Oxygen on defense of Coastline. That is not something that you see every day.
Certainly not the case. This map's actually been pretty balanced as of recent times. It shifts a little bit into that attacker favor as of the past. This time, though, it's OXG showing us the defensive prowess they can bring to the table and really exercise against this Navi roster. Even when Navi is able to take some good control for themselves, OXG still bounce back and take full controls. We're now going to see them shift upstairs one more time here. They got 2 rounds left in this defensive half and are going to go back to the very same sites they've already controlled. No need to change it up, as the current plan is working pretty much flawlessly. So it's on to Hookah for the second time to try and get themselves a 5th.
Well, Oxygen continue down their war path as these rounds have been coming quite cleanly. Round 4 seemed to be the best opportunity for Navi to get something on the board, but maybe round 5 could be the difference maker. They've shifted saves off the Nomad over towards Twitch instead, and this could be something to try and assist them. Not only in the Twitch drones that can get rid of some utility, but the F2 that has been such a prominent rifle in Siege for such a very long time.
Vertical gonna get it aggressive once again, and the challenge is ready to go. Not even gonna see a follow-up come in from Doki because he was caught on the drone as of a few seconds before, so way too slow to follow that up there as his teammate is long gone. That's gonna be the Buck knocked out. They do have Blur on the sledge still, so once again they've got the insurance policy booked away for that one. Not the end of the world in the utility department, but Vertical needs to watch out for himself as he too is gonna have pressure barreling down against him, and it'll be secretly it takes him. Where did you even come from? Inside of the circle couch room. He's gonna be able to take out secretly, trading him out, and saves. Quickly corrects onto him as well though to keep the numbers even at a 3v3.
And honestly, you got to give it to Oxygen once again. They're at a slight advantage, but still, they're at a slight advantage. That's the big thing. They've traded down to 3 versus 3, but the utility that Na'Vi now have at their disposal, it's just not there in the way that you would essentially want it. The hard breacher gone, Buck now gone as well. They won't be able to try and abuse a lot of the angles that they would have before, and now with Foxe having a huge nitro cell inside of lobby, Doki's gone. You no longer have your frag potential. We have to see Blur and Save step up here.
Indeed we do, and again, very little time remaining here for Na'Vi to try to correct themselves in a 2v3. Gonna have to quickly try and barrel down on this site here before OXG are able to get too comfortable with their current positions inside of the site, or even worse, before they're able to work their way into a flank to potentially catch off the remaining players before they can execute to the inside of the site here. Time is ticking for Na'Vi, and unfortunately, it's probably not going to end up too well based on the trends so far from this series. They're taking it slow, as is Oxygen. And thankfully, Oxygen isn't being too aggressive with their current positions. They're perfectly happy to just wait this one out for the looks of things. Not going to see Foxe try to work himself into a flank position or anything like that just as of yet. But you can see he's keeping tabs on the rotations, catching at least the one player moving up onto the roof, probably to put some pressure over here towards Aqua, or potentially the big window as well, if he should like to go for that.
Well, it's glaringly obvious that Oxygen was definitely not going to the Gucci store. They were definitely scrimming and practicing for this land. It was actually me going to the Gucci store instead, John. Well, we'll have to see if Oxygen...
It was closed when I went by.
Oh, well, that sucks, man.
It was like 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Why is Gucci not open 24/7? That's the real question that we all ask ourselves in Vegas. As Blur, he's going to gamble here. He'll be able to get one, but Foxe will refrag it, saves down to a singular HP, and more than likely the answer coming through from Oxygen in moments. 10 seconds remain as Saves tried to work his way up. Currently at that 50% KD ratio. Trying to move his way in, but they know where he is now. Foxe will be able to end it in behind Billiards, and that's going to be round 5 going the way of OXG.
That seems more and more inside of these desperate situations that unfortunately Na'Vi just isn't able to do much to try and come back once they are put into that massive deficit. You can see good attempts again from the last player alive there to try to work as much of a possible 1v2 as possible out of that scenario, but it is just futile every single time it seems as OXG control a 5th round in a row here. And I think even more than that if we look back to the last map as well. They've been on a streak for quite some time now, and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon.
No, as of right now, especially with the way that Oxygen is handling the map and what they're doing to Na'Vi, this is just mental shattering. I mean,
8 rounds in a row right now.
Jesus, man, that is just something immense. That's something that you really never see in Rainbow Six, especially when you have a matchup like this. Expect a little bit more out of Na'Vi coming into this, but unfortunate for them. Still have some rounds to go. They can possibly try and come back in, but the big issue right now is that mental game. Everyone across the board of Na'Vi, save secretly, is currently negative, and secretly is right on the cusp of being there. 5-4 currently, as he's been trying to fight back against Oxygen, but it just hasn't been working, especially with people like Vertical and what he's been able to achieve, let alone on this map, on Bank as well.
And we can see the consequences of what's been happening because of how heavily Doki was hunted down in seemingly every single round of the previous map. Tried to work it again at the beginning of this map, and he had a little bit of success for himself, but again, second round, we see him get hunted down by Vertical for the 5th time, and ever since then, he's just been sticking with the team. He hasn't really been venturing out in his own. I'm curious to see how his defensive half is going to play out as well. Maybe he's going to go back to those more aggressive tendencies because he'll have the freedom to do so on the defensive side, but as far as the attack is concerned, he has fallen in line, and that is playing into OXG's favor to a pretty big way.
That is just some rat-tastic gameplay coming from Vertical. Prone currently at Billiards double, waiting waiting for somebody to try and punch the window, and he's just going to smoke whoever does so. Save's currently repelled out here. I don't know if they have any info game on this space. This is exactly the positioning that he was playing the last time where we saw him hit that triple kill. He'll be able to get rid of Save's drone, but now knowing that somebody's inside of this space, he'll more than likely be opt to play just a touch safer, knowing that people will be crunching in on him. But instead, he's going to be looking around for some other players. And with Saves not manning the window in such a strong capacity, he's going to be able to tag up secretly out on the actual balcony. Doki's going to lose his life as well as he's fallen yet again.
Things continue to look prominent for OXG as once again they score the opening kill for themselves here, and no one from Na'Vi this time, unlike the previous rounds, is able to get themselves in a good enough position to be able to trade that one out. Doki caught on an island once more, it seems, or OXG able to snipe out one of these players with good proficiency. Either way, another opportunity is coming up here for Vertical, but he's got to be careful. You guys probably caught it. That additional pressure from Blur working itself in from Aqua nearly catches him, but he gets out of dodge just in time to save his own life.
The amount of time that has been wasted here from Oxygen as well. Laxing's just playing around Vertical. Blur's just walking in. Again, no information from Na'Vi. They're just trying to walk into the building, man. It
evolves so quickly as well.
Oh my goodness gracious. Round 6 goes to Oxygen. I'm just going to say, I'm really happy I'm wearing a North American jersey right now. This is just the most ridiculous thing ever. They are just walking through Na'Vi. There's not a single thing that they can do.
Like I said, this is a very, very confident showing from OXG. And while it's early days for this tournament, like I was saying earlier, if we continue to see this type of a performance, other teams might start doing some research on OXG because they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, even outside of this group stage.
Yeah, I do want to highlight this as well, though, just as a reminder. Na'Vi is not in the best straits right now as a team. So this could just be Oxygen being in form and obviously being a strong squad here at SI. But don't think that Oxygen is just going to run through every single team like this. They're more than likely going to hit a roadblock where it's going to go the full best of 3 and Oxygen's actually going to have a run for their money. I just don't think it's going to be inside of this one. Honestly, if I had to guess, I'm assuming that this more than likely will be the 7-0. We'll have to see how Oxygen's going to work the map, but you can see across the board, man, it's frag heavy. They even have Yaga on Blackbeard.
Well, I mean, when you're at 6-0, it's kind of like full control at that point. So we're going to see these teams maybe have a little bit of fun with the comp, as indeed Yaga brings the Blackbeard into play, which is not an operator we are very used to seeing inside of this type of competition at all.
Poor Na'Vi's going to go for a spawn peek. They're going to hit that shield. He's going to trade it out himself. Oh, that's I can already see it.
You know, it might have it too, because back on the bank they were doing that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, we had 2 different hop outs, I think 1 from each team as well. So Na'Vi's no stranger to playing aggressively. I wouldn't be surprised if they cooled it off a bit, considering they're currently 0-6, but we'll wait and see over these next few seconds how this goes.
I'll be honest with you, they can't cool it down. They have to be aggressive here. If they're not aggressive here, they already lose the map, especially because it is Coastline, right? So they have to try and fight for these early picks and fight for this map control. If they give up too much here inside of these opening minutes, then it's basically over for them. Yaga's going to start working towards office with that Blackbeard, but the rest of the squad also working the entirety of the west side of the map. Nath already taking some serious damage, as well as Blur, as he's trying to army crawl his way across Aqua in the moment.
Yaga potentially ready to use those Blackbeard shields for the first time. Here's he creeps up on office, just waiting for the rotate to work its way through the first floor, and at the moment, not going to be able to catch that, unfortunately, but Blur does sit on the other side of the shelf in office, so might be able to catch that one, as you've also got Doki potentially lurking around the corners, a little bit closer to the security hallway. The team focusing their efforts, though, on trying to put presence into the double bars at this point.
Love it.
We've got the reinforcement that's going to be taken down here and give the team full POV with the Blackbeard shield currently on that position as well, over to its cool vibe. So any rotation coming down through there is more than likely to get caught by Oxygen.
Yeah, Coastline is really about trying to chop out this map in a certain sense, and having Blackbeard actually man the windows makes it almost impossible for anybody to try and fight up against him, because he's able to just eat bullets to the face time and time again. Nath is also going to go down up top. Lax will be able to get him with the lifeline of all things, impacts him through the floor. Blur will have to back off over towards lobby, but now the cameras and everything else being broke up around them. Really halfway through the round as well, so Oxygen going to be cool, calm, and collected moving through this, as they're more than likely going to try and look in towards the site and try and see exactly what map control they can possibly muster. Looks like it's coming in towards Sunrise now. We'll start pre-firing out towards lobby. Case control on Kino still as well. So hop back on drones and see exactly what's going on inside of site.
First time we're actually going to play into the kitchen site as well. Saves with great positioning here to catch one. The drone is like 3 seconds late here in the meanwhile. Bad timing coming out there from Oxygen. It's going to cost him a player, but but the correction is very quick. However, Laxing is also lost before we can even see saves get down. In fact, he might get retrieved in a second here, but OXG doesn't care. They're going to storm their way into the site, directly past all these toxic bays, but right into the waiting hands of Na'Vi. What is happening? As secretly tears out Kino, and very quickly, this is finally looking like Na'Vi's going to be able to negotiate themselves around, and certainly so now, as Foxay's left alone, but he's not giving up either. A quick pickup from him against Secretly, and he's got 3 players left to shut it down. Nearly trades that one out against Blur, and barely takes any damage himself, so he's still very much in this fight. This is the hard part, though, getting the case down onto the ground. He hears the push coming his way, but cannot stop Doki, and he will finally shut down this madness as finally Na'Vi get on the board here in map number 2.
You were talking about devolving. That's just the description of that entire round. I mean, it just seemed like everyone just not able to really get done exactly what they wanted to, but either way, Na'Vi come out on the other side, and they're able to stay alive here with this kitchen defense. Biggest part of that, the drone coming up vibes. That's really it. That missed timing there, the confidence that Vertical had to try and get in towards Kitchen early, it just wasn't meant to be. Saves inside of the position yet again here to be able to try and fend them off. Well, actually, it wasn't even him the last time inside of the map. It was Secretly instead. So saves for the very first time, actually, making a round-saving play for Na'Vi, but still quite the road ahead of them.
1 down, 5 to go. We need to see a perfect half from Na'Vi if they want to save themselves inside of this map and push it onto a third, pulling off the same exact feat that Oxygen just did inside of the first. I've already seen one North American team give up a map that seemingly was theirs earlier, if you watched the Sonics game. Now time to see if OXG will do the same. More than likely not.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a different context to that one. I would say that, well, first things first, it wasn't a 6-0 on one side.
Yeah, well, yeah, that part's obvious. But
yeah, but, you know, that map actually overall, quite interesting. You guys should definitely go back and watch that series, because definitely one of the bangers from early on, as well as Sandbox. I mean, my God, man. I've been an NV Taylor fan for a very long time, but even I was like, I really don't know how this series is going to break down. This is Ninjas in Pajamas, but, I mean, they shut me up quick.
And IP, of course, looking to defend their title once again this year and top out the rankings here at SI. We'll see if they'll be able to do that, but the year has not been super kind to them ever since that victory, so we'll have to see if it's going to be in the cards as they try to work their way towards a second title here. In the meanwhile, we've got OXG and Na'Vi that are also hunting for it, just like the other 18 teams we have at this event. Once again, OXG sitting at map point here with plenty of buffer room between them and their opponent's scoreline here. That very first round just now coming onto the board from Na'Vi, and they need to replicate the same amount of success that OXG had. That's with OXG still nearly controlling that last round had they not made the mistake over towards Cool Vibes as well. Doki ready to take the challenge on initially here, and once again, armed with the rifle as well here. Going to try and see if he can put that pressure in from Kitchen, but does back away after a couple little pokes, realizes that the pressure is a bit too much for him to continue to risk, so he'll back away.
And truly loving Oxygen's whole strategy with Yaga here as well. We were talking about initially with the round that maybe Blackbeard wasn't exactly what they were looking into, but obviously they brought it for the second time. He's meant for that angle holding as well as swinging into these angles that they have set up to try and fend off the player from getting in initially into the building. Obviously because they can't shoot him in the head initially, so he's actually allowed to take the gunfight in the way that he wants to. So Na'Vi, we backed off here. You guys also saw their strategy out towards this end of the building as they had both of those Lucy charges, the Banshees on the wall to make sure that if anybody did enter, it would end up slowing them down and giving some information to players like Blur who could have possibly gotten an early pick here. But now with Oxygen working around the kitchen space, they also got some lobby control. We need some info on the security areas. This is currently the bunker that we see Blur and Nath both hiding inside of.
Very, very slow play here from both of these teams because of the events over the last few rounds here. OXG not able to stabilize their attacking strategy just as of yet because things got far too chaotic when they forced it in the previous round. So now trying to play it a lot more slowly and a lot more controlled fashion as well as they look for an opportunity to descend into the double bars. Be waiting for a lot of their hard breach utility to work its way out as well. They'll open up access from the pool side of the map. From that point forward, they'll also try to open up more for themselves upstairs, but no clear on that upstairs hold as if
oh no!
See Yogg way out over here, almost in the ruins, sniping out saves, and Kino follows up. Here's the downfall yet again. It's going to be up to Na'Vi now to turn this back around. Nath gets caught in the lobby. In fact, he catches another player, but nearly whiffs the entire magazine trying to catch him out. Gets the job done ultimately, though. Foxay and now Nath going back and forth on kills. Nath trying to save the day, but now the diffuser is down on the ground. Secretly hops down below the hatch, regroups with Nath outside of the main entry into Sunrise. So close to the headshot there, but cannot connect it. Yaga gets it instead, and Foxe will finish it off with the last kill, as we're going to see OXG take control of their opening matchup, 2-0 against Na'Vi.
3 rounds in total for Na'Vi across 2 maps. That's really all that I'm going to say about that. Oxygen, on the other hand, they look stellar in the moment.